with great hotness comes great responsibility.
This makes no sense.
Hi, welcome to This Makes No Sense. I'm your host, Sylvie Yapinski, and today we're going to talk about Haley Dunphy. Let's start from the beginning, even though this is my 19th take. Okay. You're so amazing. Okay, why Haley Dunphy's ending feels so frustrating? A sitcom pattern. One of the most frustrating things about Haley Dunphy's ending with married and 2 children is that on paper it is perfect sitcom ending. She begins the show as pretty, slightly shallow, boy crazy, all the stature, and it's becoming a version of her mother, married young, accidental pregnancy, and trying to make adulthood work. The writers clearly wanted a first full circle moment. And Haley started to serious by rolling her eyes at Claire Dunphy and ends up becoming Claire. That is classic sitcom move. The problem is that sitcom logic and character logic are not always the same thing. For most of the show, Haley is treated like the stereotypical dumb, popular girl. But as the seasons go on, the show slowly reveals that she's actually one of the most intelligent, emotionally intelligent person in the room and in the family. She is good at networking, fashion, social media, branding, reading the room, and in so many instances, she is as smart as Alex. When Alex is struggling with something, she might have the answer for it. Haley builds a fashion blog, work for a designer, shows real talent in photography, and gradually begins to figure out a career path that is unique to her. The show spends years telling us that Haley is not stupid, she is simply smart in different ways. Her intelligence is social, emotional, and creative rather than academic. In many ways, Haley's story is about escaping the assumptions everybody make about you. Everyone assumes she's shallow, irresponsible, and destined to peak in high school. Slowly, she proves them wrong. That is why her ending feels so divisive. Instead of letting Haley continue that trajectory, the show suddenly narrows her future into marriage and motherhood. There's nothing inherently wrong with Haley's becoming a mother. In fact, that her being a young parent could have been a fascinating storyline because she had always a complicated relationship with Claire. The issue is that show frames it as it's a natural conclusion for her growth. And for years, her growth had been about becoming her own person rather than repeating her parents' lives. The most controversial part about Haley's pregnancies and marriage is that it is with Dylan. And Dylan represents Haley's past. He is sweet, but he also keeps Haley frozen in her role as that 14-year-old immature girl.
Tell us what?
Nothing? It can wait.
No! It can't, please! My organs are shutting down.
Okay, fine. We have an announcement. Dylan and I are having a baby.
And also, Dylan is treated as a joke throughout the whole series, so we do not take Dylan seriously.
They're amazing.
I've never been this far from home before. Now I've never been this far. Now I've never been this far.
There's a cliff when you need one.
And when these two factors come together, it just doesn't make sense when Haley and Dylan get married and have 2 children, because for us, even though they have individually grown, as a couple, they never move. They are on and off, but every time they get back together, it's the same pattern. Nothing changes.
It's hard to be apart and then together and then apart and then together and then apart and then turned down by the Marines and then together.
And immature, impulsive, and not really not the Haley we want. Think about Andy. Andy is the guy that most of us wanted Haley to end up with.
So you and Beth,
There is no Beth. There's only you. I'm just trying to slow us down a little. We kind of started this whole thing off in the middle. I just want us to catch up emotionally to where we are physically so we don't burn out.
We're not going to burn out. I liked you way before we ever hooked up.
By contrast, Haley was growing up with him. Haley was maturing and realizing that their relationship was more honest, more mature, more emotionally vulnerable. By putting Haley back with Dylan, the show chooses nostalgia over development. It's comforting because Haley was Dylan's first love, but it also makes Haley's life feel like strangely smaller. It is Instead of ending the series as a successful young woman with her own career and independence, she ends the show in essentially the same position Claire was in her age. Married to a lovable but immature man and raising children earlier than expected. The problem is, Dylan was never one of the main characters, so we never saw him in the light of complexity. As for Phil, we saw him in so many different positions. At the end, we were like, yeah, we kind of understand why Claire married this man and why they stayed married. But for Dylan, even after they got together and got married, he was still excluded from the family and he was still shown as a joke up until the end and in the end as well. What makes this even more frustrating is that Haley's ending is not just about Haley. It just reflects a sitcom pattern that I realized, and I'm sure most of you also realized. In so many sitcoms, female characters who begin with wildly different personalities, ambitions, and lifestyles are eventually pushed towards the same conclusion: marriage and children. It happens so often that it starts to feel less like an individual character, more like a genre rule. The Big Bang Theory, Penny spends years saying that she doesn't want children.
How do you feel about children?
They're okay, I guess. I mean, if I saw one, I wouldn't throw a rock at it.
Why would you throw a rock at a child?
I just said I wouldn't.
Her entire character is built around wanting freedom, independence, and a life that looks different from traditional path. Then, and finally, she suddenly becomes pregnant anyway. The show presents it as a happy ending, even though it directly contradicts something she repeatedly said about herself for years. Even like a couple of episodes before, she was always saying that I do not want children. I am not thinking about it. I want my life to be as it is right now. I am happy. I am content. But even after so many writings, so many decisions, she ends up pregnant. And for How I Met Your Mother, we know Robin from the start, from the get-go. She was a career-driven woman. She wanted to be successful. She wanted to travel the world, see everything to see, and report everything to report. But at the end, she was back together with Ted, and Ted had 2 children. So, in a sense, she was married and happily with children. The same thing happened to Haley too. For years, she is the reason of someone like might finally break away from the expectations and presumptions about herself. She's not academic like Alex, not traditionally responsible like Claire, not interested in following carefully planned life. She has her own version of intelligence and own path. Yet, in the end, she is pulled back into the same familiar sitcom setting as everybody else. What makes this pattern so frustrating is that many sitcom characters are often allowed to stay messy. And for the Modern Family setup, Luke, Manny, they didn't figure out their life yet. And even for Mitch and Cam, they were still trying to be themselves. Even for Jay and Phil. But when it comes to female characters, and even Lily, they had to be the responsible ones. They had to be the ones with the tradition ending. And it just doesn't make any sense. The irony is that this show spends years teaching us that these women are interesting precisely because they are different. Kelly is interesting because she is underestimated. Penny is interesting because she wants something different from people around her. Robin is interesting because she rejects the path everyone expects her to take. Then, at the last minute, last second, they ended up with the trajectory that the whole world expected them to be on. From this sitcom-wise perspective, Haley's ending reveals something important about the genre itself. Sitcoms love full cycle moments. We saw the same thing happening with Robin and Ted. They want children to become their parents because it feels neat, familiar, and emotionally satisfying. Even in the show How I Met Your Mother, when Ted and Robin was together for the first time, we saw that Ted's parents were divorcing, and we saw the crisscross of their clothes, as if Robin and Ted was the exact copy of Ted's parents. Sitcoms love this full cycle moments, always at the expense of the female character and female character development. I want to conclude it this way. I understand writers want to make Haley's end like Claire's because in so many sense Claire was the crazy girl Haley was, and writers saying that, well, yeah, she became her mother even though she was most afraid of it, and Claire was her mother in so many senses even though she was most afraid of it too. But in this settings it doesn't make sense, especially because, first of all, Claire and Haley's story wasn't the same. It was just accidental pregnancy part that was the same. Dylan and Phil wasn't the same person, and they were not in the same circumstances. And for Haley, there were so many other options. And if they wanted Haley to end up with somebody and Andy wasn't available, there was always the possibility of another man. But Dylan was not the right choice. And this path would have been okay if they didn't make Haley lose all the growth she had. I know sometimes they would say this is the real life. In the real life, nothing goes like according to the plan. But if you can change so many things in one setting, then you can change this too. If you can make Mitchell accept to go to misery, you sure help can make Haley successful and independent at the end. Yeah, that is all my take here. For the first time ever, I had a script with me, so it was kind of hard, but I hope I made my points. In another video, I want to talk about Andy's and Haley's relationship and Haley's relationship all in together, because I think it is important to talk about them a little bit in more depth. So yeah, so see you in the next one. I hope you like it. If you like it, please don't forget to subscribe. With every subscription, I can make the world a better place, because if I get rich, I can donate my money and no nuclear bombing would be happening because I would stop them with my giant cash. See you in the next one. Love ya.